I'll go from the top down as I take it apart, and then we'll put it back together and recount what it all is. Telescopic cover, you see, because it hangs over the sides on both sides, that's why they call it telescopic. Most of them will have an aluminum top like this and wood sides. No matter who you buy them from, that's usually what they are. Very nice to have. Kind of heavy, kind of expensive, but it's okay. The inner cover, you will only have one of these if you have these. You will not have one of these if you have a migratory cover. You notice that it has a hole in the top? Ventilation purposes. Better ventilation. For Texas, very good idea. If you're using migratory covers and it gets too hot and you find that your bees are bearded a lot, take a toothpick in a migratory cover and stick it in there, and that's how air will get in there. I wouldn't go anything more than a toothpick because especially if you have a feeder on, you're going to incite robbing. Just enough to let air get through. This is a top feeder. This is one that we use here. As you can see, it has floats on the inside. These float up and down. It gives the bees a surface to land on, but yet still be able to access the syrup through the float. The bees come up a slot in the middle from the hive and come down onto the floats either side. These are made by, this particular model is made by Brushy Mountain. I really like this feeder. And I don't know the process they're using to coat the insides of it, but it's working because I've never had one leak, ever. The only problem with top feeders is you have to take them off.
Very, very carefully.
And that, when it's got 2 gallons of syrup in it, can get kind of sloshy. Unless I want them to draw out comb fast, I usually never put more than a gallon.
And how long will a gallon last you of this size?
Generally, if the hive is this size, I'll say this size. It would usually be 1 brood chamber.
Okay.
If I have supers that don't have comb drawn out, then you might see me put a feeder on it to get them to draw the comb. They can suck down a gallon of feed in days. Days. Amazing. Now, I was showing you earlier about frame management when I'm putting things back together. And when we get in class 3 and we go out into the yard, you'll see me do it. I push my frames together in the middle and I leave space on either side. When I go to manage the frame, because I don't want to building up all this propolis between the frames. The frames are already designed to give me the bee space that I need. I don't need anything more than that. Okay? So I'll use the hive tool to pry them apart like this, because they'll still stick together. I mean, hives are sticky. You just kind of get used to that. And I use a hive tool like that. The other thing when I'm managing in the bee yard is I never let go of this, ever. I never put it down. It's always in my hand. You'll learn to use this even when you're working with bees. Use your fingers to flip it in different ways, just so it doesn't interfere with the frames or stab bees. That just, it kind of happens. You will get to that point where it just happens. But if you remember to always keep this in your hand, sooner or later you'll just do things automatically to keep it from, oh crap, I'm mashing bee, oh I gotta turn that in my hand, and those things will just come to you as time goes on. You notice here all of my frames are branded. Yeah, do that a couple thousand times in a day. But 2 supers. There are different queen excluders that we use. Some are like this that have a wood frame. Some just have metal. Either one of them is okay. if you use these, just remember that most likely if this box is on like this and it's stuck, when you go to put your hive tool in there and that's just metal, be very careful when you're prying these boxes apart to break that propolis seal, because I guarantee you your bees will seal all of these boxes together. Any crack that they find, they're going to seal it with propolis, and that's the number one use of this tool. Sticking it in the side and just popping it, and that's all it really takes. Okay? But if you're using an all metal queen excluder, be careful, because you can bend the excluder and then you can throw that excluder away, especially if you bend that space. Standard deep setup for us. This is also something that you may want to do for your hives. This frame was built in 2012. So you can say, well, I got to replace them every couple of years, or at least the foundation. You can mark on your frame permanent markers as to when this actually was in the hive that you saw. See where they started doing that. This is for purposes. Deeps. Normally, your situation initially is going to be like this. One deep, plus your feeder, then your inner cover goes on, and then your top cover. You don't need any of this stuff yet. Okay? In my case, when I get down to 2 frames and they've drawn these frames out, they don't have eggs yet, they're just drawn out, then I'll put on another deep. Okay? Now if I put this deep on, and this is nothing but raw foundation, not drawn out, comb, I may put that feeder back on, depending on whether or not there's a honey flow. If there's nectar, no more, feeder goes back on, give them an incentive to draw out that comb. Now let's talk about, Mike asked earlier about the bottom boards, the screen bottom boards. This is a screen bottom board. This is a little bit fancier one because it's got the on-ramp and not necessary. Removable screen in case you want to clean it. It also has another slot here that you can slide a sticky board in case if you want to do mite counts, by dropping powdered sugar through here. Solid bottom board is fine too. If you're full natural, no chemical beekeeping, you gotta go this way. I'm not saying that if you use solid bottom boards that you're going to be using chemicals, but your likelihood of success, there's a lot of people that go all natural and no chemicals, they're pretty hardcore about it. If you've got a problem in your hive and you got to start dumping powdered sugar down the top, that can only help you. Because you don't want to keep ripping your hive apart to clean that solid bottom board, which is where all that powdered sugar is going to land and pile up. Most of the time at that point, this box is going to be so heavy that you're not going to want to keep doing that every time that you're scraping powdered sugar out. Now, when you put these back together, there's also something you can get good at. You want to make sure that you keep these things lined up as best as possible. The slightest crack one way or the other, it's 5/16 of an inch. The bees from the outside can get in. Wasps can get in. That is as tight as possible. Why would I use this? She can't go upstairs and lay eggs in I only want honey in my honey super. So when I store them, the likelihood of damage from beetles or wax moths will be reduced because there isn't any protein in there for the eggs to survive. That was a little forestry view.
And how long can you take these and store them before you extract them?
If you pull, I am 50 and my voice doesn't normally crack. You should process in 3 to 4 days max, especially here. One of the things that I would suggest you do when you're pulling supers, if you're like kind of pickup truck, you know that really wide cello stuff that people wrap boxes with and stuff, and you see like pallets that have that stuff. You can get that stuff at Uline or Home Depot, or get some of that and wrap your supers. Because remember, bees are smelling it. As you're pulling it off, you put it in the back of your pickup, and you turn around and go get a couple more. The bees in your yard smell that. All those bees are going to go back in that super. Then you take it in the house, and you start pulling frames. Guess what happens? Yeah. So, saran wrap at the least. More commercial cello wrap, faster, better. It keeps the dirt out too if you're driving someplace. Back to your house. Okay.